You're listening to My Comic Life on the My Comic Life Podcast Network. Welcome back to My Comic Life, folks. That's right, My Comic Life. We are your one-stop podcast for all things geek, nerd, comic books, movies, TV shows, video games, pop culture. If you're into that, stop. You have found the podcast for you. I'm Sam, and joining me each week in the My Comic Life studios, well, folks, he's the only man brave enough to swap out the Punisher's live ammo with rubber bullets, and oh my, can some people not take a joke? Alex, say hello to the folks there, Alex.
Sam, I got a new mic. Am I coming through okay?
Yeah?
I'm just kidding. So the whole thing with swapping out the Punisher's rounds, I I just kind of felt like it was time to go a new direction with the guy. You know, kind of a little bit of a little more, um, I'll say, a little softer. You know, let's get these some of these villains into some therapy. You know, try a few different methods. It's not about shooting them all in the head. You know, so if we swap them out for rubber bullets, I think it's a good start. But you know, a lot of people don't. They disagree. But hey, what are you gonna do? Fans out there, we've missed you guys so much. We have a banger of a show for you guys tonight. Sam, why don't you go ahead and take us into it?
All right, jumping into comic tidbits on the DC side of things, we have DC versus vampires. That's right, folks, you heard me correctly there. DC versus Vampires is a new miniseries from writers James Tinian, who wrote Batman the Joker War and Something is Killing the Children, and Matthew Rosenberg, who wrote The Punisher, World War Frank, Hawkeye, and Hawkeye Freefall, and art from Otto Schmidt, who also drew Hawkeye Freefall and Green Arrow. Although vampires are thoroughly ingrained throughout the storytelling lore, there is a surprising lack of it in the DC universe. DC vs. Vampires looks to blend the well known mythologies and give them a thrilling modern spin. Alex, why do you think DC seems to have shied away from including vampires in their titles?
I think maybe it just has to do with probably Batman primarily. They don't want anything to get, and I know Batman has been kind of one of the few that has actually dealt with vampires, but him being a you know, having the bat as kind of his inspiration for his whole costume and everything, kind of like they don't. I guess they don't want people to get confused, and they kind of don't want to pigeonhole him into dealing with the supernatural if they do start to include too many vampires. But that I mean, that being said, I'm super excited for this. I think it has like two or three issues out right now. I can't wait to. I think the third issue came out to yesterday. Sorry, yesterday, and I'm really excited. It's got 12 issues, and I'm definitely subscribing to all of them. But what do you think, Sam? Why do you think that DC has shied away from including vampires in their titles?
I think you nailed it right on the head there with Batman being such a bat centric character. They don't want anyone stealing the spotlight from him with any other, bat related or bat themed characters out there. Now, Vertigo, kind of the extreme wing of the DC comic book universe, does have a pretty successful vampire series out there called American Vampire, which I highly recommend that you read. It's an awesome read and it has great artwork. And if I'm remembering correctly, one of these stories was written by the master of horror himself, Stephen King. But yeah, the mainline DC universe really doesn't have hardly any vampires in it. Once or twice, Batman has brushed up against Dracula, and he himself has been turned into a vampire. But not much beyond that. And once again, Alex, I think you said it best there, though. Just with Batman being such a face of DC Comics, they don't want any other bat related creatures stealing the spotlight away from him. That being said, who might be the perfect protagonist to start a vampire centric saga?
Oh man, I think it would have to be maybe somebody that is um, I don't know. I guess like for lack of a better imagination, man. I mean, Batman. He really is. For them not wanting to confuse any fans or anything like that, he really does kind of deal with the like the dark underground, and a vampire type of foe does fit really well with like the whole Gotham nightlife and everything like that. I could see a very short run of comics introducing a new kind of vampire foe to Batman. Not, I mean, they already have Man Bat, but I'm talking about a legit vampire, and I could definitely see something like that in a short, Batman run with Greg Capullo or something like that. And so, yeah, Batman definitely would be my pick. If I had to pick another, I guess I would say I would like to see. Um, no, it'd just be other members of the Bat family. It'd probably be like Nightwing or something like that. So really, that's they're dark enough to deal with, and they go out at night and everything like that. They're not out there during the day saving crime. So that'd really be my top pick. But what about you, Sam?
Well, since you stole my pick there with Batman, I gotta say, for me, either Constantine, considering he already deals with like the mystical and darker side of things in the DC universe, I could see him being a good protagonist to start a vampire-centric saga, or Etrigan the Demon. I know he's a little bit of like a deep dive into the DC comic book universe there, and the man rhymes everything he says when he's in demonic form, which is hilarious to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say Constantine or Etrigan the Demon would be perfect people to start a vampire centric saga, since they fight. They don't quite fight vampires, but they fight a lot of creatures, like that you would find alongside, vampires. Like they fight monsters and demons and,
Zombies and werewolves and all
zombies
that.
and things. Yeah, yeah, werewolves and all that other stuff. So yeah, so like I said, for me, Constantine or Etrigan. If I had to pick someone from the Bat family aside from Batman, uh, I don't know why, but I'm vibing real hard tonight on the Red Hood. I could see the Red Hood being a really great vampire slayer with his shoot first, shoot second. When everybody's dead, try to ask a question mentality. I think that would actually apply really well, to killing a lot of vampires. So yeah,
He's just
the
putting a bunch of rubber bullets into vampires.
I think he would find a way to come up, like with like wooden stake bullets, and just start shooting everybody who was who was a vampire. But yeah, I think the Red Hood could also do well there. With only one issue release so far, DC versus Vampire #1 sets the stage as a vampire by the name of Andrew Bennett has risked his life traveling during the day to reach the Hall of Justice. If you remember the old Justice League cartoon there. Yes, to reach the Hall of Justice, only to find Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern, to be the only member present. Inside, Andrew explains Mary, the Queen of Blood, the Vampire Queen, has been assassinated. While searching for her killer, Andrew found himself at the Legion of Doom's headquarters, where he had discovered the Legion had been massacred and the vampires' plans for the genocide of the human race. Uh, Again, Alex, which member of the Legion of Doom do you think could take down the most vampires before succumbing to the horde?
I honestly think um, Lex Luthor could probably take down a lot. He's a really smart guy. He has a lot of resources. It'd be kind of like Iron Man fighting vampires. So I definitely think that he could take down a ton of them, and he has the resources. He just I don't know. I guess he would just pay the sun to stay out 24 hours a day or something. But it's he's definitely my pick. Would be Lex Luthor. I know you have a pretty interesting pick. We were speaking about this before recording. You want to go ahead and lay it on us?
The first one that came to mind was Solomon Grundy. I know the dude doesn't say much, except for Solomon Grundy, born on a Monday. I'm just saying the dude is super strong. He can take a lot of punishment. It would take a lot of vampires to like really like drain enough blood out of him to like weaken him enough. Uh, yeah, to like get him on his knees and like take him down. So Solomon Grundy, solid #1 for me. Number two, I got to go with the Joker just because he doesn't fight fair, man. Like, he will use any and all tactics, including sacrificing Lex Luthor, you know, just to make sure he's the last clown standing. So, yeah, Solomon Grundy or the Joker, I think, would last the longest, actually, um, before succumbing to a horde of vampires. But hey there, fans, let us know who you think would be the last member of the Legion of Doom to go down fighting. Comment on our Facebook page when we post this episode of the podcast. But continuing the story, Hal reveals himself to be a vampire and kills Andrew before informing his master that Andrew has been taken care of.
Dun dun
Kind
dun.
I know this sounds like like a soap opera here. Sort of flipping the last question on its head, Alex. Which member of the Justice League do you think could take down the most vampires with them before succumbing to a horde of vampires?
I obviously there's an easy answer, and I'm not going to go for it. But
Yeah, we
I
all
think
know.
there's a reason why they got rid. They kind of made Hal a vampire already, and they didn't explain how that happened. They were just kind of like, all right, well, we'll just make him a vampire already. That way, we don't have to somehow, um, explain to the fans how a Green Lantern with the power of the sun in his on his finger managed to get taken down by vampires. So, I honestly think that Hal Jordan, if it were a kind of if they were, I think, like I said, that's the reason why they just went ahead and made him a vampire, was because they needed to get that out of the way. There was just no way of explaining or putting together a good story that would be believable enough for the for Hal Jordan to go down. I just don't see it happening. What about you, Sam?
Once again, I'm going to go with an obscure kind of deep dive Justice League member here. I'm going to go with Firestorm, man. Firestorm can manipulate matters and molecules, so he could be dusting vampires left and right on a subatomic level. Also, his main power is he shoots fire from his hands. I mean, like really strong radioactive fire. This guy could melt vampires left and right, and he can fly. So I mean, he can do swooping aerial attacks on you. I gotta say, Firestorm is the man who goes down swinging last out of the Justice League there. Um, which member of the Justice League do you think would be the most OP vampire?
I think there's an easy answer for that,
Yeah,
and
of
it's
course.
obviously it's Superman. I mean, that's a man that could solo the Justice League if he wanted to, except Batman. Don't write in. Stop writing your emails, okay? Except Batman with prep could take on Vampire Superman for sure. He um so well, maybe he wouldn't, because when you think about it, Superman gets his power from the sun,
The sun, yeah, and he couldn't be
and
out in the sun.
yeah, he definitely couldn't if he was a vampire. So, I take my answer back, and I am completely speechless. I have kind of backed myself into a corner here, and I will yield the floor to you, Mr. Sam.
All right. Well, folks, I'm going to set the gold standard here and go for Booster Gold. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, actually. I think you would be one of the first ones to go down. No. An OP vampire for me would be the Flash, honestly. Like, he could drain your blood so quickly, and then just move on to the next one. His speed combined with maybe the enhanced strength you would get from becoming a vampire would definitely make him in my book an OP uh, an OP vampire for the Justice League. Um, and yeah, that's my choice. Would definitely be the Flash. Alex,
So,
do
so
you
let me
have a
ask you
different
something.
answer?
Do
Yeah.
you do you do you like that DC is branching out with the story, or are you excited about maybe if this is something that will kind of, I know it's a 12 issue miniseries, but it might, have implications that reach further out into the DC universe. Do you think, does something like that excite you?
A little bit, yes. I mean, the only way I'm really going to get behind this story and really get excited about it, and the only way I'm going to believe that Hal Jordan could become a vampire is if we find out this is one of the many multiverses. Like this is the 8675309 Earth. Where Jesse's mom is running everything. Yeah, but if you're telling me like this is like main what like I know I'm going to use the Marvel Earth reference here, but it's the only really Earth reference I
Like
know.
the
But if you're
main
going to tell me like,
continuity?
yeah, if this is like the 616 Earth, if you catch my drift,
Right.
that's going to be a little far fetched for me. Now, granted, you did just say this was a mini series, so I mean, like if Zatanna or Doctor Fate like zaps everything back at the end, and you still want to set that in the main modern DC universe, and yeah, sure, I'd be fine with that. But I mean, like Hal Jordan just becoming a vampire. I mean, it's fun, but just not totally sold on it. But what about you? Are you excited about them branching out into vampires and with this story?
Yeah, I think like you said, a lot of for too long, Vertigo has kind of held on to the horror side of DC with your Constantines and your Preacher and your, I don't know if Sandman had anything like that in his, but I wouldn't, it wouldn't surprise me, but I am kind of excited for what this might do for the main DC continuity. Even though I'm kind of like you, I think that at the end they're just going to be like, oh, this is not canon, but it was fun, wasn't it? And that would kind of cheapen it. But I am definitely excited. I know earlier you were talking about how the Flash is the most would kind of be one of the most OP vampires of the Justice League, and I'll tell you they do tackle that in issue 2 because I have read it and it's pretty
Oh,
crazy how they do. I won't spoil it for anybody or anything like that in case some of you are thinking of picking this up, but they do tackle the whole Flash as a vampire possibility. But yeah, I like I said, I'm super excited. I want to see what the other members kind of look like as vampires, and I know Batman and the whole Bat family have their own um, like little side story right now because I guess Andrew Bennett, the vampire, he had um, excuse me, he had given Batman a vial of Lex Luthor's blood because I guess Lex Luthor had given it to him and said that this is the only way we're going to save the human race and to get it to somebody who knows what they're talking about, blah blah blah, stuff like that. It's in the book if you guys want to read it. But right now the whole Bat family's kind of in that. I know you love the Thing, and they're all going through it kind of like where nobody you don't know who to trust kind of. So yeah,
that's
it's a
cool.
neat little side story that they've got going on right now. And I'm just like I said, and then there's the whole thing where Green Arrow is kind of like nowhere to be found, and so I'm definitely I'm here for it, man. Like I said, I subscribed at my local comic shop, and I've been getting a kick out of reading this so far. So we do read comics on this podcast, boys.
Yes, we
So
do. I mean,
boys and girls.
yes, I know we don't talk about them a ton. Mainly we talk about their movies and TV shows. But yes, Alex and I both still go to the comic book shops on Wednesdays and peruse the racks and read comics. Hey Alex, tin foil hat time. Do you have any wild predictions for this series?
Um, I I want to say that not all of the Legion of Doom, the ones that we think are dead. I think that maybe there's, like I said, Lex Luthor was, he died and gave Andrew Bennett his vial of blood, but I think that there's going to be something where they turn Lex into a vampire, and it's, issue 6, 7, or 8 or something like that. He's revealed. So, and there's always, the Joker's out there somewhere. So I think him being vampire was is kind of that's a scary thought for the citizens of Gotham. So I would love to see some of my favorite DC kind of characters in a vampire form, and I can't wait. So, what about you? Do you have any wild predictions, Sam?
My excuse me, my wildest of wild predictions would be that Darkseid shows up and gets
Oh
bitten
shit!
and becomes a vampire, and there's no more of the anti-life equation. He just wants to drown the universe in blood. That is it, you know. Yeah, so yeah, Darkseid showing up is my wildest
That's
of
kind of
wild.
a
And
big one right there, man.
yeah, yeah, Darkseid just shows up and he's like, "Here, I'm here to attack Earth," and all of a sudden he gets bitten. He's like, "What the crap?" And then he becomes a vampire.
And I
Yeah,
am, like
that's
I said, I haven't read issue 3 yet, but I am extremely interested to see how they deal with somebody like Superman.
yeah. All right, folks. Well, keep reading this comic book series. Alex, you said that there are 3 issues in right now.
Yes, the third one came out, I believe, the December 29th. So
All
I
right.
still
Well,
haven't gone to my local comic shop to pick it up yet, but I'm going to be heading there tomorrow.
correction to my previous statement where I said there's only 1 issue out. There are 3 issues out.
Yeah, at the
Um,
time that we wrote the show, there was just one. But, things happen, ladies and gentlemen. So, that's, you get what you
things
get.
things change, Mox. You're the starting quarterback now.
That's right.
Oh my gosh! All right, jumping from the West Canaan Coyotes over to the Marvel side of things, Punisher rumors abound. The Punisher will be undergoing a redesign. Marvel's newly announced Punisher series from writer Jason Aaron and artist Jesus Saez and Paul Azaceta is giving Frank Castle's infamous skull icon a slightly new design. The Punisher's infamous skull icon has been the symbol of Marvel's Comics' popular anti hero since the character's first appearance in Amazing Spider Man 129. Right off the bat here, are you a Punisher fan, Alex? Yes or no?
Currently, no. Now, when I was kind of in my later elementary years, like 8, 9, 10, I was a huge Punisher fan. I owned that when I think they did kind of a reset of him, and they had John Romita. I can't remember if it was. I think it was John Romita Jr. It might have been John Romita Sr. Famous artist for the Punisher. They had him kind of drawing, and I loved the art. The Punisher was just always a he was just a very kind of enthralling character. Being an 9-year-old kid, and seeing this dude just gunning down everybody is that was cool. It was the '90s, that was what was cool. It was everywhere, and so I had the Punisher, the I think I had the Punisher video game. I had the Punisher comics. I used to read that there was one called the Punisher Arsenal, and that would be where it was literally just them drawing guns and describing what they were. They'd be like, "Oh, this is a P90, and it's got a 800 round mag, just out here for shooting all kinds of bad guys." And I was just totally engulfed in all of that, and so I was a huge Punisher fan growing up. But what about you?
Uh, I didn't really discover the Punisher really until like I was in high school and college, and yeah, I was sort of a fan of his back then. I definitely had the Punisher video games and would always try to drag the mobster over to like the table saw or like the window with the broken pane of glass, and I could like slam it down on his carotid artery in his throat. I definitely tried to get the most brutal kills in that video game possible, and I read some of his comic books. Um, so yeah, like I said, kind of toward like the 16, 17, 18, 19 years. Yeah, I was a Punisher fan. Um, now the Punisher has been played on the big screen and small screen by a variety of actors. So I got to ask you, who portrayed the Punisher best, Alex?
I'm a sucker, dude. I really liked. Now, if we're taking the Netflix series out of it, just because that was kind of a. If we're talking about just movies only, I think I like Thomas Jane was my favorite Punisher. I know that the dye job was terrible, and John Travolta was kind of not really a great villain because he did, at the time he didn't cuss. So uh, and then they had that weird plot hole where he killed one of their sons, but oh wait, there's a twin. But I just kind of loved that movie, like the campiness of it, everything that happens, um, and just to see Rebecca Romaine in her was in it, and to see him actually fight that giant. I think it was the giant Russian guy with the kind of sailor, the red and white sailor tee. I think it
Yeah,
was Kevin
Kevin
Nash.
Nash from
Yeah,
WWF days, man.
yeah. Watching that fight was awesome. It was just really, I enjoyed that one the most. Would say because I've seen it the most, and not to say that the other ones aren't great. Um, I loved Punisher. I think it was Warzone or whatever when that guy's doing parkour and he shoots him with a rocket launcher. That was
Yeah,
kind of like that was the pinnacle of cinema in the
that
United
was
States. They're gonna put that they're gonna inscribe that moment onto a disc and shoot it out into space. But
that was the Ray Stevenson Punisher.
yeah, that was a good one. They're all really good. I've seen them all, and I But to me, Thomas Jane is my pick. What about you, Sam? Who played the best Punisher in your eyes?
Oh man, this is like a solid tie, and I know our listeners hate it when I tie things, man. But I have so much trouble picking like the ultimate one. But tie for me comes down between Thomas Jane. Yes, I I liked the cheesy, but still fun and cool Punisher movie, and then of course Bernthal from the Netflix Punisher series. Man, those guys really nailed the Punisher and got that character right, and so did Ray Stevenson. I mean, credit to him. That wasn't the most well received movie, but again, he played the Punisher right as well. But yeah, just tied for number one for me would be Thomas Jane or John Bernthal. Those guys really, I mean, just really nailed the
Oh
Punisher.
yeah, absolute like monster performance from John Bernthal when it came to like being. He was the one that I think like he got the Punisher right and he got Frank Castle right. Like the shit that was going on in Frank Castle's mind was you could actually see the pain on that man's face. So it was definitely he did a banger of a performance, and I really hope that Marvel kind of tries to bring him back in. I don't know how, but I honestly, if I were if I had Kevin Feige in an elevator, I would definitely be like, hey man, you need to get John Bernthal like back out there. So for sure.
All right, now the Punisher symbol has recently been a fulcrum for controversy, and it has been co-opted by police and military, something that is counter to the Punisher's modus operandi. Frank Castle's transition into the Punisher is well known. The man takes the law into his own hands after the law enforcement system fails him. Punisher co creator Jerry Conway wrote in 2019, any cop who wears a Punisher logo in his official capacity is identifying law enforcement with an outlaw. These cops are a disgrace to serious police officers everywhere. They show an imbecilic level of irresponsibility and should be fired immediately. Alex, what do you think of members of law enforcement or maybe the military adopting the skull icon?
And I want to like preface this by saying, Jerry Conway's a an amazing comic book writer, and would I have had the guts to kind of say what he said, how he said it? Not necessarily, but I mean, it is his character, and he obviously cares a whole lot about what Frank Castle stands for. So, as far as what I think of members of law enforcement and the military that kind of, use that skull icon for their own, I don't know whether to terrorize, their opponent or to just kind of feel like more of a badass. I do think that there is a some miscommunication with what that logo actually means and what Frank Castle actually stood for. And I think we were talking about this before the show that Frank the Punisher had actually kind of came down hard on a whole bunch of police officers that were using his symbol in the comics and kind of saying you guys don't have no idea you know what this symbol means and so I but at the other on the other side I do get it. When I was a kid I loved that Punisher skull icon and it wasn't because of it stood for injustice and stuff like that. I just loved it because it was a skull and there were bullets and um so whatever. I know that there's a lot of people that are in law enforcement and in the military that end up joining those branches, like not necessarily directly as a result of kind of reading these Punisher comics, or but I know that they did do some. It did play some role in it, and so I guess you take the good with the bad. Just like any symbol, it can be used for good, or it can be used for some really horrendous shit. So. But it's really up. You have to deal with it on an individual basis. But what about you, Sam?
I would say if you're going to use the Punisher symbol, you should really understand what the Punisher's mantra and history of that symbol is. The Punisher is not a guy who protects and serves. If you're a bad guy and you cross him, he flat out kills you. I know I used this earlier in the show, but the Punisher is definitely the walking embodiment of shoot first, shoot second, and then when everybody's dead, good. You know, I mean, yes, he's targeting bad guys. Yes, he's targeting evil, but he's not there to arrest them. He's not there to hear their side of the story. He's there to flat out kill them. Like I said, he's
Right.
not there to protect and serve. He's not there to like. I mean, sometimes he's defending the innocent, but sometimes he's just cleaning house, and it's pure vigilante justice and pure carnage and anarchy
Yeah.
associated with that symbol. And like you, Alex, I used to think that symbol was badass. A part of me still does. I used to have like a Punisher T-shirt that I would wear around with that awesome skull logo on there. I'm just saying, if you're gonna fly that symbol of the Punisher skull, really understand what this character is about and understand the history of that symbol before you just go blatantly slapping it on things, trying to look badass or fierce. Understand what the Punisher stands for before, yeah, like I said, you just go slap it on something and be like, yeah, look at that. That's all I'm saying there. Now, there is uncertainty as to whether the redesign will be permanent or not, but one of the preview pages from Saez shows the castle walking alongside members of the Hand, and rather than the skull, his chest is emblazoned with what looks like a tusked devil. Alex, what do you think of this redesign? Is this something that is needed? Is this something that has been long overdue?
I I do think that it's kind of been long overdue, especially considering that it's his iconic you know um, symbol has been kind of co-opted by you know some of these nutcases out here. So I think it's wise for Marvel to kind of try and distance themselves from that, and let's not forget that this is not the first time that this logo has been redesigned. Now they have been some of them have been minor, and some of them have been major. Like I'm looking at when they had Cosmic Ghost Rider, who was Frank Castle, who kind of got the spirit of vengeance, and so they're you know the a lot of time Marvel Comics is about adapting and about evolution, and kind of they do a really good job of kind of having their finger on the pulse of their fans. And I think a lot of the fans are kind of like you said yourself, this has been kind of a controversial subject. So I do think that it's long overdue. I don't really like the redesign. I think it could have been better. It looks almost like something out of the Mandalorian, like when he got his little symbol, you know, um, em, 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 I don't know when he got his symbol hammered into his armor, but I like it as far as what they're trying to do on a kind of like a societal level. If in fact they are trying to do something like that. But what about you, Sam? Do you like the first of all? Do you like the redesign?
Uh, I'm not a huge fan of the redesign, but I'm looking at it and like he's in this picture, and we'll post it on the My Comic Live page here. He's walking with two ninjas of the hand, and he's got two what looks like katana swords strapped to his waist, and the skull symbol kind of to me looks like an kind of like a horned but ancient samurai helmet, and if the Punisher is kind of going down, a road of ninja or samurai combat tactics and style, then I'm okay with this redesign. But I would not want this to be his permanent new symbol. For better or worse, I think he should just go back to the old skull that he had. Kind of like you said, again, for better or worse, that is a very just iconic and instantly recognizable symbol. But like I also said, right now in this picture, he's got dual katana swords on his hips, and he's walking alongside two ninjas. And yeah, like I said, the skull symbol seems to reflect the time and place that he's in this comic book, and I think it works for that. But I would go back to the original symbol once this is over. But we'll be sure to keep you updated on whether or not the new logo is sticking around or if it's just part of the Jason Aaron run on the title. All right, folks, jumping from the Punisher to Hawkeye on the small screen. It's time for Talkeye, if you will. Wow, Alex, I like that joke you wrote in there. All right, folks. Yes, we are about to break down episode 2 of the new Disney Plus Hawkeye series. So, spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Have I said that enough? Spoiler alert. Come on, folks. If you haven't seen episode 2 of Hawkeye on Disney Plus, pause the podcast here, use your own log on, or see if a friend or family member will give you their log on. Watch the second episode and then come back, start the podcast right here, and start listening. All right, I'm going to give you that famous My Comic Life 4, 3, 2, 1 countdown, and then you will be spoiled. So we're going in 4, 3, 2, 1. That's right, folks. You are spoiled. This week, we will be covering, like I said, the second episode of the little-known Marvel Disney Plus show, chronicling the adventures of Clint Barton and his impromptu sidekick, Kate Bishop. The second episode premiered November 24th and is entitled Hide and Seek. Bishop takes Barton back to her apartment, but they are attacked by the tracksuit mafia and forced to evacuate, leaving the Ronin suit behind. After relocating to the apartment of Bishop's vacationing aunt, Barton sends his children back home, promising to rejoin them by Christmas Day. He escorts Bishop to her workplace, then recovers Ronin's suit from an FDNY firefighter named Grills at a LARP event. Later, Bishop fails to convince Eleanor of Duquesne's involvement in Armand's death. After challenging Duquesne to a fencing duel, she tries to contact Barton, not knowing that he has allowed himself to be captured by the tracksuit mafia. She tracks down Barton's location but ends up being captured herself. The gang informs their boss, Maya Lopez, of what happened. All right, Alex. It's kind of a controversial statement you wrote here, but I'm going to read it. Jeremy Renner's emo vigilante shtick made Hawkeye one of the most forgettable Avengers, often sidelined except for the occasional one-liners. Not much has changed as far as his character goes, so why is this working so much better for him now?
I think that with him just being paired with one person is a lot better than him going, being paired up with 4 or 5 different, almost, gods, kind of. because when you watch the Avenger movies, a lot of the best parts with Hawkeye are when he's just it's either him and just Natasha, and they're kind of going off on their own adventure together, or it was with him and the Scarlet Witch when they were having their own kind of semi little adventure together. So I think he does a lot better when he's just when the amount of people around him are is just like one or two people, because that really gives him an opportunity to shine, because he is a really not I'm not saying that he's not a great character. Obviously he is, but I think a lot of time he kind of gets sidelined for some of the more popular, like your Hulks, your Thors, your Captain Americas, and everything like that. So, just pairing him with Kate Bishop kind of really gives him an opportunity to, just really shine out there as Clint Barton. And I love this show. So, what about you, Sam? Do you have a differing opinion?
Uh, a little bit. I think the reason that this is working so much better. I think you said it best. He was mainly around just for like one-liners, and it really wasn't until maybe in game that we got some more time to like sit down. Uh, we got it a little bit in Avengers 2, Age of Ultron, but in this series, we really get to like sit down with Clint and really explore, like his family dynamics, like really walk a mile in his shoes, if you will. And it really fleshes out his character really well. And I think, and Jeremy Renner's just doing a fantastic job of you know, just being Hawkeye. And so I think that's why it's working so much better on the small screen than at times when we only got quick blurbs of him in the movies. In this episode, though, both Clint and Kate were given time to shine together and on their own. Who had the better solo adventure, Alex?
I think I'm going to. I already know what I guess your answer is going to be, so I guess I'll take the other one. I will say that Kate had the better solo adventure, because it did. It introduced us to a new character in the MCU, and that is, I guess, there's rumors that Duquesne is the swordsman, and watching him kind of hold back against Kate Bishop when they're dueling, and then to have him just kind of totally just whoop her ass when he's not consciously holding back. I think that it kind of it has a lot more. I guess like it adds more mystery to the show, and it has an opportunity for the show to kind of grow a little bit more with that storyline than with what Barton went through. But what about you? Do you agree, or do you think that Barton had the better side quest?
I would have said Kate had the better side quest had it not been for Clint Barton LARPing. Uh, him fighting, or faux fighting to get back the Ronin suit was just a gem. It was hilarious. It was great. At one point, you could see how he could have easily taken down everyone in this LARPing group with his advanced fighting skills, and he kind of has to hold back and pull his punches and allow himself to be beat when he totally could have owned up on every single one of them. But you also see him get into it a little bit too, and he kind of starts to have just a little bit of fun LARPing, and that was just hilarious and fun to see on screen. So I'll that and when he's talking to his wife on the phone about how he has to like let himself be kidnapped in order to to like find the headquarters of the tracksuit mafia and stuff like that, and just how stupid they are, to think that he would actually let himself, be kidnapped. Like that little banter was pretty funny, and so that's why I think Clint in this episode had the better solo adventure. All right, now Kate and Clint seem to have very good chemistry together, with Clint playing the straight man and Kate playing the starstruck, eager student role. Do you think this is a testament to how far the writing has come on these small screen productions?
I do. Matter of fact, I because this one, this show to me is written very well, and I don't know if it's that it's written very well or that Jeremy Renner is just like because he's had several movies to kind of perfect this character, and he's had such a crazy story arc that he might he's damn near had one of the best story arcs in the MCU. I mean, save for I guess like a Loki or something like that. But um, and then Kate Bishop is just fit right in with the whole MCU kind of environment and the uh, kind of attitude that they have, and so I enjoy the chemistry that they do have together. She does a really good job of kind of playing the star, like you said, the starstruck kind of student, and um, he does a really good job of playing kind of this old kind of curmudgeon. So I love it a lot. The show is great to me, and if you haven't watched it yet, man, I definitely cannot recommend it enough because I like those kind of small things that were input in this episode, which we'll get to that, when we get to that part in this kind of breakdown here. But what about you, Sam? Do you think that the writing has kind of really evolved throughout the year to kind of almost be like perfected, like a chef's kiss kind of thing, or do you just think it's kind of just par for the course? Because I know they in your eyes they came on strong at the beginning of the year, so
Oh my
let's hear it.
gosh, you're wow, man. Good to know that WandaVision controversy between us has not died down at all. I mean, yes, kudos to the writing, but also I just think Hawkeye's story lends itself better to the small screen than the big screen, and so I think that's why this is working so well. That and just the fact that you got, two phenomenal lead actors here who play so well off of each other. Yeah, Haley Steinfeld and Jeremy Renner are just knocking it out of the park. So yeah, writing is good, but like I said, it's your two lead actors, and I just think yeah, the Hawkeye storyline lends itself better to an episodic TV series than a movie, and I think that's why this is working out and succeeding so well. Alex, what was your favorite part of the episode? And, as always, scale of 1 to 10, what do you rate this episode?
I honestly, the part that was my favorite was kind of like a little smaller part, and it was almost like a blink and you miss it. But when um, Kate asks Clint, like, "Hey, why do you wear that hearing aid?" and you kind of just see this quick little compilation of all the shit he's been through, all the explosions and Thanos dropping an entire Avengers compound on him and everything like that. And it's kind of it reminds you that he is like human. He's not a super soldier or a man in a super advanced iron suit or anything like that. He is, and he bruises and he bleeds, and uh, him explaining that. Now I know I believe it's different than it is in the comic books, right? Right, Sam?
Oh, I have. I mean, I've had that Hawkeye comic out on my bedside table to read, and I have not caught up on that. So you caught me there, Alex, man. My bad on that one.
No, you're
I
good.
will
Well,
have to.
I think because I had to look it up myself because I like we've said before in the past, I've kind of just recently started to try and get into reading some of the Hawkeye books that they have, but he deafens himself in a fight with Mockingbird, I believe. I can't remember
Oh yeah.
who made them turn against each other, but he ends up like deafening himself. And it is comic book accurate. He does have he does wear a hearing aid in the comic books. So I just love that they inputted or they put that into this this show, and you even so it's a really good kind of little, almost like a little Easter egg, and it was definitely my favorite part of this episode. Now, as far as what I would rate this one was kind of more story based and trying to, I guess, exposition and trying to move everything along and kind of set up who the bad guys are and who the allies are. So I would give this one. I think we gave last week's an 8. I would probably give this one a 7.5, and that's a strong 7.5 though, and it's only because, like you guys know me. I like a little bit more action in my in my shows. So what about you, Sam? What was your favorite part, and what would you rate this episode?
Oh man, my favorite part again was just the LARPing. The LARPing cracked me up. Definitely just kind of made me laugh a lot there. So yeah, definitely. Like I said, LARPing, favorite part of the episode. Uh, I rate this episode solid 8 to 8.5. Just another solid B plus episode for me. Definitely a strong, good episode, and nothing going wrong here on that one. All right, now that is everything wrapped up for 2021. But we're going to give you a little rundown and recap here of all things, comic book TV shows or movies that came out this year. And we're going to, let you know what our favorites are. So there was WandaVision, Zack Snyder's Justice League, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Black Widow, Loki, The Suicide Squad, What If, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Venom, Let There Be Carnage, Eternals, Hawkeye, Spider-Man, No Way Home. Holy cow, did Marvel ever just dominate that list there? All right, Alex, rate the year one Disney Plus releases.
Okay, so without spoiling anything, because I have seen all of Hawkeye, I don't think you have. But,
I haven't yet.
So I would go Hawkeye, Loki, small gap, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, large gap, What If, even larger gap, WandaVision. So what about you, Sam?
Oh my gosh! All right, so I would go. I really should put this first. The show made me. I'm gonna go with. Man, that's tough. All right, I'm gonna go with WandaVision first, Falcon and the Winter Soldier second, Hawkeye third, Loki fourth, and What If fifth on my list there. Just being a.
Oh man,
I know.
you don't know how bad I want to just. I hate that show.
Oh my
so
gosh.
much.
Oh my gosh. All right.
Let's just move on.
Next category: rate this year's comic book movies.
Obviously, and if you guys haven't seen it, don't worry, we're not going to spoil it for you. But Spider-Man: No Way Home, best to me, easily best comic book movie of the year, probably best movie of the year, and one of the best movies I've ever seen. So that's far and away number one. Number two for me, I would say The Suicide Squad, because I watched that one multiple times. It was, James Gunn did a fantastic job with the property, and I just really enjoyed watching a rated R superhero kind of production. Third, I'm gonna say Shang-Chi, because that was a lot of fun to watch. I enjoyed the martial arts in it, and it was kind of one of those ones where I was, it was almost like a Guardians of the Galaxy, where it was somebody that I had never heard of before, so I went in completely blind, and I was very pleasantly surprised. I think I'm on 4, would be Zack Snyder's Justice League. It was long as shit, but it was well deserved, and it shut everybody up from that damn hashtag. 5 would be Black Widow, 6 would be Eternals, and 7 would be Venom, Let There Be Carnage. So that would be my list. And not to say, that at the end there, things kind of mishmash and everything. Not to say that they're bad, but it's just there were a lot of ones that definitely held my attention a little bit more this year. What about you, Sam?
Wow, we're not agreeing on anything at the end of the year. Number one, I just saw it this week, so it may, it's the freshest on my mind. But number one, Spider-Man: No Way Home. Number two, The Eternals. Number three, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Like you didn't know a lot about Shang-Chi going into it. That movie really surprised me, really enjoyed it. But really enjoyed the Eternals a lot more than I thought I would too. Coming in at number four, The Suicide Squad. Yeah, James Gunn rocked it and brought his oh so fun James Gunn directing style to it. So yeah, at number four, James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. At number five, Zack Snyder's Justice League. And granted, nothing wrong with Justice League. All these are strong contenders here. Really, I mean, you kept my attention for 4 hours, and I didn't know if that was going to be possible. So kudos to you there, because I have ADHD and I'm always bouncing off the walls. So I mean, yeah, the fact that you kept me glued, and the fact that I want to go back and watch it again and spend another 4 hours invested in it says something about Zack Snyder's Justice League. All right, so that was four. Number five for me was Black Widow. Just a good middle of the road, solid B minus to B plus Marvel film. Nothing wrong with it. Just also nothing made it overly stand out either. But still, good movie. I liked it. And the last on my list, and I really didn't want to put this last, and I'm sorry that it is last, is Venom: Let There Be Carnage. I was such a huge fan and so blown away by the first Venom film. And again, there was nothing terribly wrong with this Venom movie. It just didn't do enough to distinguish itself amongst the ranks of like Spider-Man: No Way Home or Shang-Chi or the Eternals for me. It was just once again a very middle of the road, solid, good, comic book movie. But yeah, nothing really blew me away uh, in that movie. Last question here, Alex. Who is your favorite newcomer to the MCU?
Oh, this is kind of hard because there were a lot of really, really, um, really good characters both in the Disney Plus and in the movies. For me, I guess it would be a toss up between Kate Bishop and Jonathan Majors. He who remains, the guy that they stormed his castle at the end of Loki,
Yeah,
because he kind of like it was like 20 minutes that he was in the show, the build up to it and everything like that, and like the way that he acted was not something that I had expected at all, but it was like a very like pleasant surprise. And Kate Bishop is just like I'm all about her, man. She's fire. She's I think that this whole, if they are in fact doing a kind of Young Avengers type of either a show or a movie, I think she fits right in with it. She's her origin story is amazing. Her character is amazing, and Haley Steinfeld plays her very well. Not to say that there were a ton of really good people that got introduced this year. So, do you have a differing opinion, Sam?
kind of like you. For me, yeah, just the badass, ass kicking, awesome ladies of Marvel stole the show for me. I mean, yeah, starting out with Kate Bishop in the Hawkeye series, of course, being played by the phenomenal Haley Steinfeld. Man, did she ever rock it? Also loved Florence Pugh as Yelena Belova in the Black Widow film. She stole every scene she was in. She was a badass. She was awesome. Uh, Loved Teyona Paris as Monica Rambeau in WandaVision, seeing a grown up Monica Rambeau, and also, kind of seeing her possibly getting powers and becoming a superhero on her own right. Once again, just amazing. Like I said, these badass, ass kicking women of Marvel stole stole the show for me this year. They are my favorite newcomers to the MCU for sure.
Yeah, it definitely gets you excited for what could be coming here in year two. I know they have a lot of new properties, and even the sequel to some of these first year shows coming. So I'm here for it. You got me for another year, Disney Plus. So well, hopefully you guys can make the most of it.
All right, folks, this wraps up our final show of 2021. We will see you next year in 2022. And always, it's that time in our show to shout out our My Comic Life fan of the week. This week, our My Comic Life fan of the week is Jennifer Mack from Jacksonville, Oregon. Jennifer, man, we thank you for emailing us and subscribing to our YouTube channel and liking a few of our posts on our Facebook page. Jennifer Mack from Bend, Oregon. You are our My Comic. Or sorry, Jacksonville, Oregon. Man, I gotta get those towns right. Jennifer Mack from Jacksonville, Oregon. We salute you. You are our My Comic Life fan of the week. Salute to you, Jennifer.
Yes, Jennifer, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a safe and fun holiday. And stay away from people.
All right, folks, if you want to be our My Comic Life fan of the week, it's really easy. Look, email us at realmycomiclife@gmail.com. Again, that email address is realmycomiclife@gmail.com, all one word, no spaces, and say, hey, I want to be the My Comic Life fan of the week, and we will give you a salute and shout out. Or like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Heck, get your friends, get your family, get your bosses to click that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. It really helps grow the show, and we appreciate all the support. Apologies to Kevin Smith again. Sorry, we just ran out of time. We couldn't get you on, but we wish you a very happy new year, and definitely going to have you on in 2022, man. Damn it.
Yeah, maybe next year, Kevin.
Maybe next year, Kevin. We're going to get this to work. But all right, folks, this wraps up another excellent episode of My Comic Life. So as always, ditch the herd, be a nerd, stay strong out there, my friends.